Hey, thanks for joining me today. Today you're going to go on an adventure with me. I'm cooking a Mediterranean barbecued brisket. Never made this dish before. What's going to set this different from other briskets is I'm going to use some Mediterranean flavors in the smoke. So instead of smoking the brisket over like applewood or hickory, I'm going to lay rosemary throughout the process on top, fresh rosemary, some fresh bay leaf on there. And instead of your traditional barbecue sauce, this sauce, I'm going to make two sauces. One's going to be an apricot glaze and the other is going to be a plum glaze. Trim off some of the excess fat. Then I'm going to marinate it for 24 hours in 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of granulated garlic, and this is something you don't see too often, but 2 tablespoons of ground thyme. That's going to add some of that Mediterranean flavor in the rub. If you don't know the beauty of these briskets, I lived in Beaumont, Texas for 1 year that felt like 10. But one thing they do great there is brisket. You just cannot mess with Texas when it comes to brisket. Really long cooking time. And it's a process that's needed at slow cooking. In my barbecue, I have charcoal on both sides of the barbecue. It's like a half barrel type of barbecue has a lid on it. And then I'm gonna put the herbs on top of those as it smokes. You wanna cook it at about 225 to 250 degrees. Now the brisket comes from the front chest part of the cow. It supports a lot of the cow's weight, does a lot of work, so it's a very tough piece of meat. So that's part of the reason why it needs to cook long and slow. Also, the collagen that's natural in that part of the animal will slowly break down and turn into like gelatin. So it goes from a tougher supportive structure like to a gelatin-like structure like Jello, where it's just super rich and delicious and adds to the moisture of the finished product. So the ideal temperature to cook it is about 225 degrees. When collagen heats up quickly, it binds together tightly, but when it heats up slowly for a long period of time, it loosens its structure and allows water to come in, hydrolysis, and then it turns to gelatin. To make sure my barbecue is at the right temperature, I have this grill thermometer. Actually, it comes with 4 probes. I'm gonna use 2. One I'm gonna set inside the piece of brisket, and the other I'm gonna just keep in my barbecue so I know the temperature and make sure I maintain the correct temperature. Using the vents in the barbecue, the more air you allow in there, the faster the coals burn and the hotter. The more you close down the vents, it'll drop the temperature and cook a little slower. And from time to time, I'll have to add a few more briquettes to the heat source to keep it going. All right, now I'll combine my dry ingredients for the rub. So I've got my salt, black pepper, granulated garlic. Really good smell that thyme though. It's always good to have paper towels with you. It could get messy, and have a big bowl to put the plastic and any trimmings. Obviously, really important to have a sharp knife. This is a bony knife, and it's a little different from, I have a fish bony knife that's a little more flexible. This blade is fairly firm, but sharp and thin. You want to trim the brisket down to about 1/4 inch. No less than that, because the fat gives flavor, it kind of drips and bastes the brisket as you go. The fat is also going to just render off quite a bit. I'm going to start up here. You always want to look to see if you're digging into meat. Obviously, if you're digging into the muscle, you've gone way too far. So you can see all that there. There's no muscle meat attached to there, so I'm doing good. Here I dug into a little bit of muscle there. You can see, so I want to back off. So again, as you're trimming, just keep on taking a look to make sure you're not digging into any of the muscle. Not as much fat at all on this side. Here, I just could tell the fat's thicker in this spot, so I'm kind of going in with like a sort of a V cut. And I just could tell from my experience with other pieces of meat that this is a big chunk of fat there. So there, I see some muscle down there. Not much. Again, I'm sort of doing a V cut a bit. You can see there's this fat cap here is pretty thin, probably 1/8 of an inch, so I'll leave that. I think this whole section here isn't that thick at all. The fat also is harder than the muscle. The muscle feels much more flexible and pliable, so I can tell this is a big chunk of fat there, and it is. Yeah, but these pieces of fat are very hard. They're very firm. Now again, I'm just going to feel to see if I just could even feel for like denser sections of the brisket that might be more fatty. But that looks pretty good. That's probably about, for sure, 2 pounds, maybe 2.5 pounds of fat I trimmed off. And now it's ready for the rub. Try to get it even over the whole brisket. Doing this about 24 hours in advance. I think you at least want to do it 4 hours in advance. smells so good. Kind of really press it into the meat. You don't really bounce it off. You want to use it all. Really massage it in there. Try to get these in-cut pieces along the edge. If it tastes as good as it smells, we're going to be in for a treat. I can tell this is almost all fat here, so I'll take this off. So I will put this brisket in the refrigerator overnight. I am going to start this brisket early tomorrow morning, and I'm hoping to have it for dinner. Barbecue's ready to go. The charcoal's in there. It's cleaned out. The water pan is in there. My herbs are cut, ready to go. If you do want to use, if you're doing this technique, like fresh rosemary, if you have fresh bayleaf, that's good too. But definitely want to use fresh rosemary. I'm going to use some fresh oregano, just because if you try to sprinkle dry herbs on there, they're basically just going to burn out very quickly. And even the herbs I'm using will burn out fairly fast. Every time I go into the barbecue to put in briquettes, you know, if I need to increase the temperature, I'll put in some more fresh herbs to get some of that smoky essence in there. Here we go. Now the time is 6 a.m. I'm going to put on the brisket. At 9 a.m., 3 hours after putting on the brisket, the internal temperature of my brisket is 160 degrees. Right, at 10 a.m., the internal temperature of the meat is 169 degrees Fahrenheit. At 10 o'clock, the internal temperature of the meat is at 158 degrees. So at 158 degrees, the meat is medium to medium well, but it's that increased time and temperature that break down the collagen and the muscle fibers that are tough. Okay, my water pans are starting to get dried out, so I'm going to add some more water, maybe about a quart. Now I'm going to wrap it in foil. At this temperature, the moisture will try to escape your brisket, so by wrapping it in foil, you're keeping it more moist. I'm going to put some herbs in with the brisket as I wrap it up and enclose it in this foil, just hoping to, again, steep some of those flavors into the brisket, because it should still take at least another hour to get up to 205. The brisket has been off the barbecue for about an hour and a half. I'm gonna unwrap it, cut a few pieces off. Can't wait to taste it. I have it wrapped in foil and put some towels over it just to keep it warm. I'll bring it out of, that's still pretty hot. After 2 hours, it's hard to handle. It smells so good. Man, there's something just overwhelming, you know. Words can't describe what I'm smelling. It smells so freaking good. There. I recommend having a really sharp knife. Pieces of meat like this cut really thin. Whenever you tri-tip it, any type of bigger roasts, to me, the thinner the better. I sharpen my knife with this sharpener, works incredibly well. And we'll go ahead and so good. Okay, we'll cut into this. Whenever you're slicing, you shouldn't have to put that much downward force on your knife. Let the knife do the work. Look how beautiful that is. Nice little layer of fat there. So good. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but see how when I shake it, it jiggles a little bit? That's one of the signs that it's cooked well. All that gelatinized collagen in there. Here are the two barbecue glaze sauces I made in the previous episode. You can go back and watch that. One is an apricot barbecue glaze, and the other is a plum. The glaze is really good, but definitely the star of this performance is the brisket itself. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I liked cooking this brisket. Absolutely fantastic. Enjoy my sauces on the previous videos. Hope you enjoyed the video. Now go cook for someone you love.